1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a level check from meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer in the First Alert Weather Center at Fox 19 now. It is 7:16. I'm running a minute late. I apologize. I had a few issues trying to get things going with YouTube, but they are going now. And any second now, we will see a live shot. There we go. This is a live shot of downtown Cincinnati from our tower cam. That tower cam is located in South Fairmont, a couple hundred feet up on our tower. And it's a nice view of downtown Cincinnati. Often can see a lot of interesting things, and we can zoom it into different things when we need to. So that is what is going on around the tri-state. Have one other issue here. The big monitor that's usually behind me doesn't seem to work. What they've done is they've actually added a different monitor in here. It's a touchscreen monitor that was in the newsroom. They put it in here for elections, and I mean, it's just warming up. Give me a second here and we'll get it. Sometimes live broadcasting, or streamcasting as we call it now, from behind the scenes is pretty interesting. Okay, then we got to set up where we're going here, and we should have that any second. There we go. Oh, there it is. Okay, there is the live shot from our tower cam. You can see I-75 north and south moving well. Downtown Cincinnati's looking pretty good. There's a big concert in downtown Cincinnati tonight, Billie Eilish, and it looks like it's going to get out about 10 o'clock. I'm going to get off about 10:30, and so I'm going to get stuck in that traffic. But, you know, life could be worse. What's the deal? All right, so as far as the weather goes, it has been pretty nice lately. Now, it was chilly this morning. It's going to be chilly again tomorrow morning. And right now it is 53 degrees at the International Airport, and we will drop into the upper 30s and lower 40s as we head to tomorrow morning. Now, the Bearcats at UC play tomorrow against West Virginia starting at noon. Temperatures will be 49 for tailgating, 59 as the game begins at noon, 63 at halftime. And then maybe as high as 64 or 5 on the field in the stadium up there. And the MLS Cup playoffs on Saturday at TQL Stadium. Saturday at 4 p.m. they start, 60 for tailgating and for the kickoff, dropping to 58 by halftime into the lower 50s as the match comes to an end. So good weather for that too. So far, it's chilly for high school football tonight, good weather for UC, good weather for FC Cincinnati. And then, of course, on Sunday is the Pete Rose Memorial for 14 hours appropriately from 7 a.m. Sunday to 9 p.m. You go to Great American Ballpark. You go to Gate A, which is Crosley Terrace. That's where all the statues are in that, outside of the Reds Hall of Fame in the shop. And make sure you take your rain gear. It looks like there'll be plenty of rain around the tri-state on Sunday. 7 a.m., 58, 60 at noon, 59 at 9 p.m. So also it's a chilly rain that we expect. Now, we do not expect there to be any severe thunderstorms. We don't expect to have flooding rains, but we do have enough rain coming down, especially in the morning, to get you really soaking wet if you don't have your rain gear with you. So again, that is 7 a.m., 58, 60 at noon, 59 at 5 p.m., 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. If you go later in the day, you've got a better chance of not getting so wet. Most of the rain is going to be up until about 11 a.m., and then it will taper off. You'll still get wet, but you've got a better chance of staying dry if you go a little bit later out that way. And that is to memorialize the great Pete Rose, who gave us, I think it's 28 years of just great baseball entertainment. Monday is Veterans Day. Can't forget that. If you see a vet, thank the vet for their service. 47 at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 56, 62 at 2 p.m. So it looks like a nice, pleasantly cool day, a little breezy, but great weather coming our way for Veterans Day. Okay, let's see. It looks like I got everything going okay. All right, the high thin clouds kind of going away, so it's going to clear out overnight, and with a clear sky, it's going to be chilly in the morning. As we zoom out here, you're going to see the next weather maker. Okay, that next weather maker is this big system that is coming in from the west. Now, notice there's a tornado watch down south of Dallas. We do not expect anything like that in the Cincinnati area. This big area is going to move north and eastward, pick up some moisture, and we'll time out when it gets here. But I think by the time most of us get up Sunday morning, there'll be rain moving into the area. Airport temperatures right now, look at this, it's down to 48 in Middletown, 48 at Lunken Airport, 48 in Harrison, Chillicothe already down to 43. Madison, Indiana, also down to 48. So we are on the way to the upper 30s and lower 40s overnight around the tri-state. Okay, now here is that next system coming our way. Put it into motion. By 2:10 a.m. Sunday morning, we are looking at showers moving, maybe a sprinkle as close to downtown Cincinnati as Madison, Indiana. The shower activity is moving through or into the tri-state for real by 6 a.m. By the time we get to 9:30 a.m., see that yellow dot right there over downtown Cincinnati? It extends from Madison, Indiana, all the way up into, it looks like Warren County. As a matter of fact, what I can do here, we can get a better view of that. Let me stop the run, and we will try and zoom in on this. I've got to put it into edit mode. We'll edit this and look at it manually in a little bit more detail here. Okay, so let me, I should have done this to begin with, so All right, now let's put it into motion. Here we go. Oh gosh, I forgot. I've got to remove the camera movement thing, so we call them keyframes. Okay, now it should stay on the close-up. There we go. Okay, had a busy day today and didn't get a chance to do this ahead of time. So here we go. We're going into Saturday morning. Now we're into Saturday at 7:40 p.m. And by the time we get to 4:20 a.m. on the close-up view, you see it a little bit better. By 4:20 a.m., most areas at least have a few sprinkles in the tri-state. That light green would be the sprinkles. The darker green here, the steady rain, and this really dark green, moderate to heavy rain, with the yellow being some heavier rainfall. So, and we've called Sunday a first alert weather day. We issue first alert weather days whenever the weather is something you need to pay attention to. So a first alert weather day can range from an inconvenience, like Sunday's going to be, to life-threatening if it's a tornado situation. I've got to close the door here just a second. And because this one is not going to be flooding, we're not looking at severe storms, we're just looking at rain. And rain could be briefly heavy. It's a first alert weather day, or it's a heads up for you so that you know that you've got to pay attention to the weather. And again, if you're going down to the Pete Rose Memorial, this should tell you, make sure you have your rain gear with you. So back to full screen here. And you can see that by 4:20 a.m., the heavier stuff's beginning to move into the tri-state. By 8:30 a.m., look at that. I mean, that tells you that almost all of the Fox 19 Now viewing area is covered with the dark green, which is moderate rain, moderate to heavy rain showing up here in the yellow. And it does extend into Warren County, parts of Butler, parts of Claremont, almost all of Hamilton, southern Dearborn, northern Boone, and Kenton counties. And this is 8:30 a.m. And all the way back, all of Switzerland, all of Ohio, all of Gallatin, Carroll, and most of Owen County included in that heavy rain. And if we watch what happens as we go a little bit farther forward in time, you'll see that, okay, let's see, there it is at 9:10 a.m. And by the time we get to 10:30 a.m., the heaviest of the heavy rain has already moved off to the east. So you see what I mean? If you're going down to the Pete Rose Memorial, the later you go, the better. This is already at 10:30 a.m. This heavier rainfall is already beginning to move almost out of Indiana, and so that's 10:30 a.m. Still some heavy rain off to the east. That's actually good news for them because we still need the rainfall after the dry, droughty summer we had. Go another hour, and you can see that by the time we get to 2 p.m., go a couple hours, that we're down to lighter stuff in scattered showers. And so your best bet if you're going down to the Pete Rose Memorial, now if you want to go early, you just may have to stand in the rain, but later on the best bet is that the weather is going to be dry. And remember, it goes for 14 hours from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So here we go at 5:30 p.m., here's 7:50 p.m., and by the time we get to 10 p.m., it's moving off to the east. So for Pete Rose Memorial, the later the better is what we're talking about as far as the tri-state goes. Give me a second here. Let's see. Okay, so that was a note from Ethan Emery. He's on tomorrow, and we were talking about what to do for the 6 p.m. streaming weather show. All right, so that is, so let's put this into motion, and you can see that there's no more rain until we get into Wednesday and Thursday. So Wednesday night and Thursday, we go back into another rainy pattern, and then we stay dry on into the weekend. Overall, we're talking about, again, a wetter, cooler weather pattern, but no kind of winter-like weather coming our way. As a matter of fact, we don't have much in the way of winter weather, and we'll talk about that in more detail coming up here. But first, let's go to the evening forecast, okay? Excuse me. So, this evening, the sun already set. I mean, it's been down a long time. It's set right at 5:30, and what we're talking about is, of course, since we're off daylight saving time, it gets dark a lot earlier. And there you see down to 45 by 11 p.m. Overnight, we're looking at the temperatures dropping into the upper 30s and lower 40s. Now, the 6 to 10 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center shows you this big wedge. Everything from the Rockies to the Atlantic coast, warmer than normal. But right here, the warmest of the warmer than normal just moves into the Fox 19 Now viewing area. So the 14th to the 18th of November, that's days 6 to day 10, it is going to be warmer than normal. It does not change much for days 8 to 14, which goes out to the 22nd of November. So remember, that gives us only a little bit more, and 1 day more than a week left in November. So it stays warm from the Rockies all the way to the Atlantic coast to the 22nd of November. And the new, remember I mentioned this yesterday, the 3 to 4 week outlook comes out on Fridays. And here's the new 3 to 4 week outlook. Looks like we're going to start to see cooler weather settle into the south and west. That's because a trough is digging here like this. The jet stream will flow like that. And then we stay warmer than normal according to this model, and I agree with this, through the 6th of December, warmer than normal weather in the tri-state. But you can see the pattern is beginning to change a little bit because it's not the entire east. It looks like it's going to begin to get cloudier, wetter, and cooler a little bit down to the south too. Okay, so let's take a look at the 6 to 10 day outlook for precipitation. Well, we're kind of divided between normal and slightly higher than normal in the Fox 19 Now viewing area. When we look at the 16th to the 22nd, we're above normal. It looks like it's going to be wetter than normal around the tri-state. Good news, because we still need the moisture. And then if you take a look at the 23rd of November through the 6th of December, that's weeks 3 and 4, the precipitation that's higher than normal is to the west of us, and we're about normal. Okay, we still need a lot more rainfall, but things are looking okay as we head into that. All right. This is a beautiful photograph of downtown Cincinnati taken from DeVue Park by a guy named Rick Barge. Sent it to me a couple years ago. Just great. Nice background. And Rick, thank you very much. Saturday, 41 and 63. FC Cincinnati plays, and I also mentioned that UC plays up in Clifton. And it looks like for Bearcat football, we're looking at 49 tailgating, 59 at kickoff, 63 at halftime. That begins at noon, and they are playing West Virginia. Okay, Sunday is a first alert weather day, and it's one of those first alert weather days right here that is for more like inconvenience. Okay, it's just like, it's not going to be nice. If you go outside, you're not going to like it. Chilly rainfall in the tri-state, and so it's just not conducive to being outside. And it's a first alert weather day because a lot of stuff is going on the weekend. Okay, no flooding rains, no severe thunderstorms, nothing like that. All right, oops, hit the wrong button. Give me a second, we'll go back to that. Okay, so then we talk about Sunday. That's the Pete Rose Memorial down at Great American Ballpark. Here's the forecast for that. And you've got, make sure you take your rain gear. You go into GABP at Crosley Terrace. That's where all the statues of the former players are. Okay, you enter gate A, and I'm sure when you get there, you'll see the line. And that allows you to get in there, and that's from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., 14 hours. You got 14 hours to go down and, say your goodbyes to number 14. Monday is Veterans Day, and that looks like a nice day, 48 for the low, 62 for the high. Again, we are talking about a pretty nice day there. There you see it, up to 62 with the American flag in the background. And then as we head into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, temperatures cool off to highs in the upper 50s. Low temperatures drop off to 40, but all those temperatures, the entire 7-day stretch there, highs and lows, are warmer than normal. Now here's beyond the 7-day forecast. we're looking at high temperatures back up into the 60s for a few days and then dropping off to 52 for a high by the end of this forecast on the 22nd, which is Friday. And that is warmer than normal at this time of year, believe it or not. And 39 for the low Saturday morning, then every other morning in the 40s. So here's the summary graphic on this. Okay, we take a look at the high temperatures, the low temperatures, put the normal lines on, and you see that 52 indeed, right here, the last day of this 14-day forecast, the 22nd of November, 52 is just 1 degree warmer than the normal high temperature. So we've got 14 days in a row with high temperatures warmer than normal. We've got 14 days in a row with low temperatures warmer than normal. It ends on the 22nd of November. And so right now we're saying that even though we're going back to normal, we're not going to have any really warm weather again the way it looks. We are not looking at any major kind of winter weather outbreak coming our way. Now that means, Thanksgiving is not too long after the last day on this forecast. We'll keep an eye on that. But right now, we are not looking at any major cold air outbreak or any major winter weather event until maybe sometime in December. And again, when we start talking about this in terms that are 3 to 4 to 5 weeks out, a lot of little things can sneak in there that you don't see at the present time or haven't even developed. But right now, it's looking like probably through mid-December, we won't see any major cold air outbreaks, although there are signs that we could see one sometime in the first half of December. So it's iffy, but it does not look like we're going to get much in the way of winter weather for the rest of this month anyway, and a good portion of December should be warmer than normal also. All righty, let me go and take a look at what's going on Facebook, see if we've got anybody taking part in this. And let's see, we got a few people here. Okay, Richard actually says, how does the winter outlook look? Okay, good question, Richard. As a matter of fact, I still have the graphics from when I did it. And let me, because I did a winter forecast on the air at Fox 19. Let's see here. Okay, I'm loading a graphic. I'll be right with you. Okay. And I've got to see where we are now. All right, so when I did the winter forecast, I wanted to make sure everybody understood what was going on. And so when we talk about winter forecasting, what we're talking about actually, come on, computer, it decided it does not want to work now. Well, let's see. Let me see if I can skip graphics here. Okay, so when we do a winter forecast, we rely on several things, and it's not like forecasting the weather for tomorrow. We long-term models, we rely on that, and that's primarily what's the storm track going to be, where's the jet stream going to be, and so long-term models is one way we look at it. And the thing is, the farther you get from now, the farther out into the future you go, the less specific you can be. Okay, and so that was one of the issues there. All right. I don't know why. Let's try this one more time. And the computers, okay, I'm just going to load these by hand so we can keep going. All right, so long-term models is one thing you do. Another thing you use is what are called teleconnections, okay? In other words, for an example of it is what we call the North Atlantic Oscillation, okay? Now, the North Atlantic Oscillation, oh, I know what's wrong here. Jeez. And it's not a computer problem. It's a Steve problem. So give me a second. I'm looking at the files, but I didn't turn them on. When you turn them on, you send them out so that the graphics card can read them. Let's start all over now. All right, so when we're talking about long-term forecasting, there's basically three types of data that we use, all right? The first type of data is the long-term models, and that really just is where's the jet stream, where's the cold air going, where's it going to guide warm air, and so long-term models is the one thing, but they aren't very specific. As a matter of fact, they have to be very, very general when you go far out. The other thing we may use is what's called teleconnections, okay? In this case, this just illustrates the North Atlantic Oscillation, and what they mean by that is the high pressure system here over the Azores, it's almost always there. The low pressure near Iceland, they tend to vary. They kind of slosh back and forth like this, get stronger, weaker, and what happens with those two determines where the jet stream is here in Europe, but it also determines where the jet stream is here in the United States. And so that's one of them, and there are 9 teleconnections that we use to look at that. And then the other thing is historical analogs. Now, this was supposed to be a La Nina winter, okay? And a La Nina winter is when the water along the equator in the Pacific is colder than normal, and that kind of changes the entire atmospheric circulation for a while. And you think, it doesn't seem to make much sense, but when you consider that if you look at from South America to Asia and go 10 north and 10 south of the equator, that's 5 times larger than the lower 48 states in area, and that's a lot of heat to release during an El Nino, or a lot of cold water to suppress some of the circulation in a La Nina. And so this jet stream you see here and behind this is typically the La Nina jet stream pattern, and this is what happens with rainfall, okay, when you're looking at La Ninas, all right? And so the La Nina there that we expected to form is having trouble. Next week they've got a new advisory coming out for it, and we'll take a look at that. So long-term models, we also look at teleconnections, and it's like how the weather's connected to different things all around the world, and historical analogs, which means you just look at what happened in the past, and hey, this season looks like it did in 1925, so maybe it's going to be like that. So here's my winter forecast, all right? I've had temperatures cooling to normal by mid-December. Well, it looks like it's going to cool to normal by the end of November now, but with little or no snow, at least to the middle of December, below normal rainfall, no Arctic outbreaks. If there is going to be one, maybe late in the month, but I'm thinking we're not going to see much in the way of Arctic weather through the month of December. Okay, January, temperatures look slightly cooler than normal. We could see a cold air outbreak or two, but we're not talking about the really, really frigid blast of Arctic air. We're talking about typical normal cold air outbreaks in winter around here. We will have a more active precipitation pattern. That could mean some snow. And late in the month, an Arctic air outbreak is possible. So through the first half of January, I don't see any Arctic air outbreaks that are going to put us in the deep freeze. But as we get into late January and February, depending on what happens with the La Nina, that is possible. Okay? So in February, temperatures return to normal or a bit warmer if the La Nina forms. The greatest chance of an Arctic air outbreak, late February, or mid to late February. It could be snowy and rainy in February, but the snow total will be less than normal. So we could have several days with like a half an inch of snow, but it doesn't look like a great deal of total amount of snowfall. And summary for the entire meteorological winter. Now, meteorological winter is December, January, and February. Temperatures will average out a bit warmer than normal. Snow and rain will be a bit less than normal. No extended extreme cold air episodes foreseen at this point in time. So we should end up with fewer aggravations from snow. We should end up with lower heating bills because the temperatures won't be quite so bad. And then we are, again, then talking about, we're talking about that for the winter forecast. Now, there's one exception I want to mention, and I've talked with Ethan Emery especially about this and with Ashley Smith too. But if the La Nina does not form, and the original forecast back in the spring was, it's going to be a major La Nina, it's going to last a long time, it's going to be strong. Well, the last output they had and the last advisory that they issued from the Climate Prediction Center was, it's probably going to be short in duration, it's going to be weak, and it's going to form late. Okay, that's kind of the opposite of what was in the original forecast, but that happens. Things change, and you have to adapt to them. So, and if that happens, if by some chance the La Nina doesn't happen at all, we could end up with a pretty nasty late January to mid and late February. Okay, that's the crux right there. If the La Nina doesn't form, late January into the middle and end of February, it could be pretty nasty around the tri-state. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Because forecasting for the entire season is really, really kind of a tough thing to do. And even though we're a heck of a lot better at it than we were when I started in this business, we're still far from being really good. So Richard, that was a long way to answer your question. I hope that did. Thank you, Remo. And I will have a great weekend, Remo. I hope you do too. Richard, actually, I can't stand the time change. You know what, Richard? When I was younger, it didn't bother me at all. But the older I get, the worse it gets. As a matter of fact, what we're looking at with that time change, it messes me up for weeks at a time, and then I finally get to it, and I just don't like it. Even though I work in the evening, so it getting dark early doesn't affect me because I'm in the building when that happens, and I'm used to going home at night. I don't know, it just throws me for a loop. You wouldn't think 1 hour would do that, but it does. Azazel Don Long wants to know if we're going to ever get snow this year. Well, we've already had a little bit, just a little trace of it in the form of graupel that one day. And I think the way it's looking, the first chance that we're going to have snow is going to come around. And it doesn't mean a big snowstorm, but it means cold enough air and enough moisture. But it would be somewhere around Thanksgiving, because we just looked at that 14-day temperature outlook that takes us to the 22nd of the month with temperatures declining to near normal, and that could mean that we're going to see a system finally break through and bring us some winter-like weather, and it could be around Thanksgiving. But that, and again, that's just, it's not even a forecast, what I just said. It's more like an educated guess, okay? But I would say count on at least the chance of kind of some snowy weather for a few days around Thanksgiving. And Richard, actually, Richard, I'm one of you, one of the old folks who say most of us old folks don't like like snow, LOL. And I agree with you. It used to be I'd go out and I could shovel my sidewalk and driveway and get it done, and then go out and have fun. Now I have to take a nap. So I understand what you're talking about. Oh, so he's wondering if I'm looking at, Richard's wondering if I'm looking at computers to know what to say. No, this is just basically the graphics and looking, but when we do a long-range forecast, like I said, we use long-range models, okay, and those vary in accuracy. We use teleconnections, and one of them Colt talked about was the North Atlantic Oscillation. Then there's the Arctic Oscillation. There's the Pacific North American pattern, and there's so many of them operate at different time scales. I basically used 9 of them to put my forecast together. And so it's computers, it's historical analogs, it's teleconnections, and computers help us put all that data together much better. And let me give you an example. When we first started learning about El Nino and La Nina, let me quickly check where the heck I am. Okay, I'm here. So when we first started learning about El Nino and La Nina, really they've known something was going on with El Nino and La Nina back into the 1800s, but nobody really, the meteorology wasn't enough of a science, and we didn't know enough about it, and it was hard to get data. But once we got into the late 1960s, that's when the first real meteorological study was done on it. And then by the time we got into the mid-70s, we began to know a lot about it. And so when I was a graduate student at the University of Nebraska, we wanted to keep track of the sea surface temperatures in the Pacific. Well, there were no satellites that could measure sea surface temperature at the time. There were no buoys out there. The only source we had of data, and this is kind of cool, the only source we had of data of sea surface temperatures were the temperatures that the engineers on ships kept track of, because they kept track of the incoming water temperature, so they knew how much that water would cool their engines. Okay, you don't want to cool the engine too much. You don't want to cool it too little for obvious reasons. And so and I don't know if they call them the engine man or whatever in those commercial ships, but as the water comes in, they measured the temperature and they recorded it. Okay, well, all those temperatures were then sent to something called a group of people called the Intertropical Tuna Commission. They were an industry representative that helped gather data and put things together to help track schools of tuna for fishermen. And one of the things that they knew is that water temperatures affected where tuna went. And so the Intertropical Tuna Commission for monthly would publish the list, not a list, but a map showing you what the temperatures were when the ships measured them. Okay, but for example, if I was using that method today, the sea surface temperatures for October wouldn't have come in until February. I mean, it just took that long because the ships, had to get the data put together. They had to send it by mail to the Intertropical Tuna Commission. The Intertropical Tuna Commission had to analyze it, put it on maps. They had to send it to the printer. It had to be printed and then sent out, and it just took forever. Well, now there are buoys out there that measure a lot more things than just the weather, but also ocean conditions all the way across the equatorial Pacific and other areas too. You can measure SSTs, or sea surface temperatures, using satellites, and we know so much more than we did back then. And that's one of the reasons we can talk about, hey, the La Nina is not forming, so we just don't see as much cold water out there as we thought. Okay, so that is what that was all about. Okay, now, Richard actually said, how long does it take for a weatherman, how much do they have to go to school to become a weatherman or weatherwoman? Well, let me tell you, there are many, in TV, there are people that are meteorologists, and there are people that are weathermen or weatherwomen. I'm a meteorologist because I went to school and got educated in it and then ended up in TV. And then there are people that do a fine job communicating the weather, because essentially the most important thing that you can do in TV is communicate the weather very accurately, and so everybody can understand it, and so you don't get all confused with all these big words that mean nothing to most people. And that's years ago. It was mainly meteorologists that came out of World War II, because TV began just after World War II, and so a lot of the people that became TV weathermen were the Army, Navy, Air Force. I guess it wasn't the Air Force back then, the Army Air Corps, people that did weather for them. Okay, and then degree meteorologists starting to get in it, and then you've got people that have varying amounts of education. But there are some people that do the weather that are not meteorologists at all. They're just weather people, and as long as they do a good job with presenting the forecast, that's what it takes. So for me, in particular, I went to 6 years of college, regular school, and then graduate school, and I really was aiming on getting into agricultural meteorology. I was really interested in that, but I didn't like the program at Nebraska. I liked more what was in the geography department, and so I went and studied more climate and meteorology there. So, okay, there are no other questions there. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a great weekend. Remember, the weekend is going to be half dry and nice. That's tomorrow, and half wet and chilly and nasty, and that is Sunday. Okay, in addition to the rain, there'll be some wind, some gusty winds, maybe to 30 miles an hour, so it'll blow the rain around the lot. You're going to have to hold on to that umbrella if you're using one on Sunday. So that's it for now. Now tomorrow originally we had meteorologist Ashley Smith do her Saturday and Sunday morning weather shows at 11, but we got some feedback from people, and we decided it's probably not the best time, and so she does it at 10:15 now. And sometimes our shows on Sundays, our Sunday morning show ends before 10 o'clock, but when it ends at 10, that puts it right after the show. So Saturday morning and Sunday morning at 10:15, meteorologist Ashley Smith will have her live weather show from the streaming center here. At 6 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday, meteorologist Ethan Emery has his. We have then one at noon during weekdays and 7:15 weekday evenings. So that is it for now. I thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoy your weekend. Try and stay dry and warm on Sunday. And good luck to UC. Good luck to FC Cincinnati. And if you go to the Pete Rose Memorial, remember all those great years that Pete Rose entertained us with. I tell you, some of the most energetic baseball anybody could ever imagine. Have yourself a nice weekend.